Some quick announcements. The ladies have a get-together on Saturday at 10:30 at our house. So if you're a lady and you want to get together with other ladies, 10:30 at our place is apparently the place to be. I will find something else to do to make sure I don't get trapped. I mean, included. There's a conspiracy, I think. Wolf arranged a hockey night for when we're away, and Judith arranged the ladies for when I'm here. It's like, yeah. So Wolf's arranged a men's hockey night. Joanne says no. Wolf says yes. And it's on November the 23rd. If you're wanting to go, it's the same as last time, right? We got our own suite to go and enjoy the hockey and have food and all of those wonderful things from the advantage point of a box instead of with the riffraff, you know. We're in special seats. And if you want to go, please, you need to speak to Wolf so that he can give you a ticket to get in. So we are going to continue with our David's Mighty Men. We're going to do part 3 today, and I am hopefully going to finish today. There are some points that we haven't gone through, but, we're just offloading. I'm trying to offload as I feel God wants offloaded, right? So we've been looking at David and his mighty men because the word tells us it's under David's reign that it's the first time that Israel walked into the fullness of their inheritance. Everything that God had promised was done while David was king. And 1 Chronicles 11:10 says that a major contributing factor, he says, it's because of this that this happened. It says, these are the chiefs of David's mighty warriors. They, together with all of Israel, gave his kingship strong support to extend it over the whole land. So it's the work of his mighty warriors, and all the people together worked together and gave strong support. And because of that, they managed to get the reign over the whole land. And as we've looked at that, because when there's unity, God says blessing, there's life, there's all these other things that happen when we work together that makes the work way more effective. So we've looked at what is strong support. Strong support, not being just waiting for someone to do something, is being a bit more front-footed in our support of one another. Not making things our own cause, or our own cause the main thing. It's as we unlock things for the corporate that our own inheritance get unlocked at the same time. Like Caleb fought for Israel and then said, okay, we've won this thing now. It's unlocked my personal inheritance for me. We've looked at unity. Many good things that happen when we're in unity. It says they did it together. We start from a place of unity, and then we've got a responsibility to keep and maintain that unity. We looked at Acts 15, the letter, and we've looked at how honoring these guys are of each other. They're not fighting for who's got the most honor. These guys were held in great, nobody was held in more honor than these guys. But then there was this guy, and he was also held in great honor. And in fact, these guys that were in greatest honor were led by this guy. And they're not like, hey, we're the greatest. They just need to get the job done. And then sometimes you fight battles, and our battles shouldn't be dependent on what other people are doing, right? These guys fought battles, and it said, all the people left, and they were fighting by themselves. So our ability to stay doing what God's called us to do shouldn't be dependent on what somebody else is doing. If they abandon us, but God's called us to do it, we need to keep doing it. So we're going to look at a bit more out of David's mighty men. And we looked a little bit at Jashobim last week. He said he killed 800 guys with a spear in one battle. And that's a lot of work. I don't even want to say spear 800 times. Never mind use it 800 times. He killed 300 in another. And we got Eleazar, who stood beside David in a battle at a barley field, and all the troops fled. But he stood there and they fought, and the Lord brought about a great victory. And we got Shammah, who also stood alone in battle against the Philistines after the troops had fled, and he fought the Philistines all by himself and came out on top. We got Abishai. He was the chief of the three, but he killed 300 with his spear in one battle. Now, before I go on with that, there's a point that I'm just going to touch. I'm not going to fully unpack, but I felt God wanted to say this morning without unpacking it. So here it is. Every time these guys were in this battle, right? If you think about it, one guy against 800. Those are insurmountable odds. This guy standing fighting the Philistines by himself. It's insurmountable odds. How do you fight 800 people by yourself without being overrun? 300 with a spear. How do you do that? Right? So they did it. So we know that it was hard work, which is where we're going to head to. But before we head to that, what I just felt God wanted to say to some people this morning is the Lord got credited for all those victories. Those victories were miracle victories. Right? It said after every single one of those, it said the Lord brought about a great victory. How do you fight 800 with a spear? The Lord brings about the victory. He protects you. He keeps you through the battle. He brings you out the other side. If you are facing something and you think these are insurmountable odds, I cannot fight this. Insurmountable in your own hands, maybe not in God's hands. If He's called you to fight that fight, because He is going to bring about the great victory. Right? Don't step off just because it looks like I'm on a hiding to nothing here. I'm about to get hammered. 800 to 1, it's almost a guarantee you're going to get hammered, but the Lord brought about a great victory. Just because you think it's certain end for you doesn't mean it's certain end for you. If God has spoken and He's given you something to stand on it and allow Him to bring about the great victory. So, when we could unpack, but we're going to move on. So we want to try and finish this today. But all that killing, not to sound too grim, but all that killing is hard work. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. And I think sometimes we get a bit wrapped up in a world that's designed about our own convenience and our own comfort. And when something doesn't suit you, you shout, kick, and fight until it suits you. I mean, these days you go to McDonald's, you order a burger, you can take half the stuff off the burger. I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this. You McDonald's change everything until it's what I want. What about keyboard warriors? Oh my word. It's easy, just, this, I don't like this. I'm just going to criticize, I'm just going to do whatever, and I'm going to complain until everything changes to what I want. And it's encouraged. It's all about our own convenience. Half the stuff that's advertised is advertised for our convenience. And I'm not against it. I'm pretty much for a lot of the convenience. If you're going to got a product and it makes my life easier, I'm interested. But we can't take that mindset into the kingdom and say it's all about my convenience. Kingdom advancing doesn't happen at our own convenience. These guys fighting these battles, can I tell you, it wasn't convenient. You know, 800 guys with a spear. Maybe he's there thinking, I wish I had something other than a spear. A spear is making my life a little difficult. I should have brought something else here. But we do it. Oh, man, God said to the church, this is what we need to do. Here's the plan, new beginnings. Meh, I don't know. I don't feel like it. If I look at you, it's just purely glancing over. I'm not blaming anybody for anything, all right? My eyes have got to go somewhere. But the church in general is like that. It's to my own convenience. We're doing an outreach. Yeah, I don't really like that. No thanks. It's not convenient for me. So you're going to step off the battlefield because it's not convenient and leave it to everybody else to do. A lot of taking ground is inconvenient. Matthew 11:12 says, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. Man, that's inconvenient. Ephesians 6:12, for our struggle is against flesh and blood, not against flesh and blood. Our struggle, that's inconvenient. Because if we're going to determine our strong support and our participation in things based on convenience, we are going to take a lot longer to get into our inheritance, and you are going to get a lot longer into your inheritance. Even your own personal things that God has said to you, He's taking from one degree of glory to another. But as Paul says, I let go of this so that I can grasp what's in front of me. So that's inconvenient, because sometimes you're letting go of things you like to grab the new things that He's got for you. Sometimes you don't want to let go. Actually, I like that, you know. But now it's gone, because it's not going to be helpful to me in the next season. And now we're stuck because we don't want to be inconvenienced. On the other side of inconvenience is where we find a lot of good things. I don't want to make this sound like it's like, oh man, kingdom advancing. Oh, so much work. When we say it's great adventure. There's great things that happen. And I just think us back on some of the trips we've even been on. And sorry, Wolf, one of the first things that came to mind is Wolf falling off a scooter and landing in a sewer. That was funny. But it's part of the adventure. When Jesus said to the disciples, hey guys, throw the net out on the other side. That was inconvenient for them to do because they had just finished cleaning those things. Like seriously, we've just cleaned them. Now I must throw them out again. I'm going to have to clean them again. But what happened? They threw it out and a miraculous catch. They're like, what's going on here? You know, we want the miraculous catch without the effort of throwing the nets out. Sometimes kingdom advancing is inconvenient. It's hard work. We're going to have to do things even when we don't want to keep going. We've got to keep going. Shammah stabbing 800 guys with a spear. Maybe at 350 he was like, cheapers, man, I'm getting tired now. You know, this is a bit inconvenient. I'm getting cramp in my triceps here, you know. It's inconvenient. All right, the bloke, his hand froze to the sword. That's inconvenient. So what do you do now, you know? You got to eat, you got to drink, your hand is stuck like this. Guys, sometimes kingdom advancing is going to be hard work. Corporately, it's going to be hard work. Individually, in your own walking into the things God has for you. Sometimes it's going to be inconvenient and it's going to be hard work. But it's always going to be worth it. Because what's on the other side is always going to be something good that He's taking us into. Inheritance is great stuff. Sometimes risk is going to be required. And I just love this. 1 Chronicles 11:16-19. Just gives an account of these three guys, one of the things they got up to. Sounds like a great adventure, but it's also a massive risk. It says, at that time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David longed for water and said, oh man, that someone would get me a drink of water from that well near the gate at Bethlehem. So the three broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out to the Lord. God forbid that I should do this. Should I drink the blood of these men who went at the risk of their lives? Because they risked their lives to bring it back, David would not drink it. Such were the exploits of the three mighty warriors. To me, it's a story that I think about often, you know. These three, I can imagine the three, right? Like, yeah, oh man, guys, I've got an adventure. I've got a crazy idea. Let's go get him some of that water. Yeah, we're going to have to break through the Philistine lines, but come on. It'll be fun. You know? And off they go. Break through the Philistine lines, grab some water, bring it back. And say, hey, David, look what we got for you. Nice surprise. And then I think to myself, if I were one of the three and David went like, oh man, guys, how would I feel? I'd feel a little disappointed. And like, seriously. I just risked my life for that water. And then I look at it from David's side. And I think, man, would I have been able to drink that water? When you know that these guys have just risked everything to get you a drink of water. How humbling must that have been for him? Like, how do you process people risking their lives just to get you a bit of water? And not just you had water. It's just that you like that water. It doesn't say they didn't have their own water. Just David was like, man, I wish I had that water. And you think, now you can see a little bit of strong support. That's how front-footed they were on the support that they sometimes, I think, risked too much maybe. And that risk that they did, it just moved David to a point like he struggled to process, how do I do this? Yeah, I know there are a few theories as to why he didn't drink the water. But they risked everything for the king. Are you prepared to risk for the king? And please, by the king, I mean Jesus. All right? I'm not asking you to risk everything for me, because if you do, it's not going to go well. I'm asking, are you prepared to risk for the king? That's what we're all trying to do here, is advance his kingdom, extend his reign. Are you prepared to take risks for him? Jonathan and his armor bearer is one of my favorite stories there. What a big risk they took, but look at what came out on the other side. Sometimes we're going to take risks. As a church, we're going to take risks. But I'd like to think this is a safe environment for people to take risks. I mean, if you take out a risk and you crash and burn, so what? We help pick you up, put you back together. We'll enjoy the spectator value, but then we want you to risk again. Great stuff, man. It's great when people risk. We shouldn't just like, oh, you crashed and burned, you're terrible. No, pick them up. That was awesome. Do it again. Then, out of David's mighty men, there's this one guy that had me thinking long and hard. If we read for 2 Samuel from 23, chapter 23, from verse 20 to 23, it says, Benaiah, son of Joiada, a valiant fighter from Kabzeel, performed great exploits. Now, in the context of the warriors we've been looking at, hey, this guy did 800 with a spear, this guy's hand froze, this guy did 300 in one fight. This is this guy's great exploits. All right? He struck down 2 of Moab's mightiest warriors. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and he killed a lion. He struck down a huge Egyptian. Although the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club. He snatched the spear away, and then he killed the Egyptian with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Benaiah. He too was as famous as the mighty 3. He was held in greater honor than the 30, but he was not included with the 3. David put him in charge of his bodyguard. This guy did 800, that guy did 300, this guy 500 or whatever, his hand froze to the sword. This guy, 2 Moabites, a lion, and an Egyptian. And he's held in equal honor as those other guys. Now, if you didn't question that before, I hope you're questioning it now, because I was like, what? I can count these guys on one hand. Yes, he's great. And they said, such were the exploits. I'm like, exploits? He killed 3 people and a lion. Compared to the other guys, I don't see it. And you start digging into why these kills were important. Because therein lay the key as to why he was held in his equal honor as the others. The Moabites, in those days, one of their greatest war strategies was to infiltrate the enemy and make it seem like they're one of them. They were very skilled at almost like spies, right? Send them in and they seem like they're one of you. And they're skilled at working their way up, and they get to what they would do is they would target key people in the enemy, and they would take out the commander of the army or the king, and in this case they were aiming for David. And as skilled as they were at this, because these were Moab's best that they sent out. That's what that verse said to them. They were Moab's best that they sent out. Benaiah was not hoodwinked by them. He saw the danger and he dealt with it. The lion, apparently in normal conditions, the people can take care of the lion by themselves, but because the pit that the lion was in was also full of snow, it was now a problem. And this lion was now a danger to the people. But Benaiah, being the guy he was, said, I've got this. And he went into the pit in the snow and he killed the lion there. And then the Egyptian was an assassin that had been sent to kill David. They say he's a big guy. But Benaiah saw the guy and took care of business. Benaiah was skilled at protecting his teammates and the people. His kills were equally important because he was looking out for people, he was protecting people, he was protecting David, he was protecting the people, he's protecting his teammates. Guys, we need to be a people who look out for each other, who have each other's backs. Looking out for each other is as important as the advancing and the front-footed taking of new ground. You can't maintain the unity without looking out for each other. We've got to have each other's backs, and unfortunately, that's not something church in general is known for. You're like hanging out to dry. There you go. Cheers. But that's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have each other's backs. We're supposed to be looking out for each other. Any leadership team, man, if that team is not looking out for each other, it's not going to be a team for much longer. Because it doesn't matter, and I'm not only talking about church, in business as well, if your team doesn't look out for each other, you are going to have problems. Things are not going to get done because people are going to intentionally hang you out to dry because they want to climb the ladder. And to climb the ladder has got to be at the cost of somebody. So why would I have your back? But places where the business team has got each other's back, they do well. You lead anything. Doesn't matter what sphere of life it is. Anybody who leads anything, you come in for criticism at some point or another. I can't remember who it is that said, if you want to avoid criticism, say nothing, stand for nothing, and do nothing. It's the only way. We've got to look out for each other. We've got to have each other's backs. When somebody is speaking negative things over someone, let's have their back and say, hey man, we speak life. At a rugby game, we were playing against Vernon, and well, it's Vernon, right? So now and again, the game tends to boil over a bit, and one particular game, myself and a guy from Vernon got to blows because it's a very physical game, and sometimes people take things personally, and in the heat of the moment, you start hitting each other. And he was Australian, sorry Sue, but you know, it just added to the South African Australia's big rivals on the sports field. So he's Australian, so it added to it, right? And we had half an eye on each other the whole season, because he was a pretty dirty player. I won't say anything. So anyway, we got it, and he came and he did something, and then I did something, and then we stood up and we were going at it a little bit. It happens in rugby. It's all fine as long as the ref doesn't see. It's acceptable as long as no official person sees. We're good to go. But then, like maybe 5-10 meters off to my side here, man, another fight breaks out. Anyway, we're finished now. We're good. And being rugby, straight after the game, we were going, you shake each other's hand and you have a good laugh about it. And, hey, that was fun, right? Oh, yeah, you got me a good one. That was awesome. That's how we work, right? We don't hold grudges against each other. Once the whistle's gone, it's gone. Everything's great. We have a good laugh about it. But then after the game, I was like, the guys were like, yeah, we saw you and Rich going for it, man. I said, yeah, but what happened over here? And then one of my teammates said, yeah, that was me. I said, what did you do? He said, I live by a rule. He says, my rule on a rugby field is this. If Ferreira fights, I fight. He says, so I lifted my head up at the ruck and I saw you and Rich were throwing a few punches. So I was like, well, Ferreira's in a fight. So he said, I just hit the nearest guy to me. I just looked for somebody from Vernon and I just drilled them. And so another fight broke out. So I'm like, that's not the smartest thing to do, man. He says, no, but that's my rule. If you're in a fight, I'm in a fight. And I may say, he took it further, even further than one of his, he owns a construction company, and he hired this guy, and this guy came and asked me that first practice, are you Ferreira? I said, yeah. He says, okay. I said, why? He said, no, my boss told me I'm only allowed to work in his company if, one, I play rugby, and two, if you're in a fight, I must also be in a fight. If he ever sees you in a fight and I'm not in a fight, I'm fired. So it's not clever. It's not even good rugby. It's not even a good strategy. But who doesn't want a teammate like that? That says, you know what, I don't care how you got onto your battlefield. If you're on a battlefield, I'm on a battlefield. If you are fighting, I am fighting. I will not leave you alone on a battlefield. If someone's fighting you, they're fighting me too. If a whole group are fighting you, that whole group are fighting me too. Who doesn't want teammates like that? Just keep them off the rugby field, because it could cause more trouble than it's worth. But in life, in kingdom advancing, imagine being, the whole church is like this. Hey, Chris, if you're in a battle, I'm in a battle. We're all in here with you. Hey, Scott, if you're working through something, I'm working through something too. I'm there with you. Hey, Ryan, you're facing something, I'm facing it too. What a great place to be. What a great group to be a part of. Nobody fights alone. We should have each other's backs. I think it shows the strong support as well. Great teammates like that make it easier for the leaders, for sure. But it makes it easier for everybody, because it creates such a safe environment where you know, here I'm safe. Here I'm never alone. Imagine how much kingdom advancing can take place with a group like that. You see, a team can't just be a team in theory. You know, when we've got fair weather fans, we can't have fair weather teammates. You know, the fans that cheer for you when you're winning, but when you're losing, they're nowhere to be seen. No, we want teammates who are with us in the good times and in the bad times. You've got our backs in the good times and the bad times. I've got your backs in the good times and the bad times. We're here for each other. The more we work together like this, the greater the unity, the more life and blessing that comes with it. We want every person to be fruitful. We want every person to walk further into their own inheritance as well. But helping each other is how we're going to get there. I was going to finish off. I was going to read it. And in the context of what we've discussed over the last 3 weeks, the strong support, the looking out for each other, the maintaining the unity, you know, I hear a lot of people saying, why can't the church be like Acts in the glory days? Well, if you listen to some of these things we've been saying there, I'm just going to read what these 5 verses, and you're all familiar with the 5 verses, probably. But it's Acts 2:42 to 47. And in my copying and pasting, some of the words went missing. Anyway, they devoted themselves to the teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. They devoted themselves. Not fair weather. They devoted themselves. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. That just shows how unified they were. Because to have everything in common with any one other person, just ask any married couple. Have everything in common? You'd never fight. And that doesn't happen. Except with us. They had everything in common. That's how strong the unity was. How strong were they in their support? They sold property and possessions to give to anybody who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And we know that comes when there's unity. The Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Man, it sounds like a great bunch of people to be with. And I'm not saying we slack on those things, but if we don't look at those things, we will become slack on them. If we don't be intentional about these things, then we will become slack with them. So I'm going to conclude it there. I'm going to leave it there. But I do want to just touch back. If you're one of those that were, you know what, I'm standing on a battlefield that I think the odds are stacked too heavily against me. One, you can never say that when the Lord's involved. And two, let some of us know so that we can stand on that battlefield with you. In whatever way possible, even if it's just prayer and checking in. Sometimes just talking about your battlefield helps. Lord, if there is someone like that this morning, I pray, Lord, that you just fill with courage once again. Just, Lord, let them see things through your eyes. And, Lord, that you fill with courage and with faith once again. And, Lord, regarding the rest of these characteristics we've looked at, Lord, we want to be a church that honors you. We want to be a group of people that honor you in everything that we do. We want to reflect you in everything that we do. And we want to walk into everything that you have for us. So, Lord, where we need to step up on some of these things, Lord, that you'll help us to do that. You'd highlight it for us, so that we can see more of your life and blessing through this church. We ask this all in your name, Lord. Amen.